Education. I'm honored to serve you as your moderator today. Since 2016, I have had the privilege of participating in CSW as both a moderator and a presenter, and I'm thrilled to be part of this important conversation once again. I'd like to start by thanking the Pan-Pacific and Southeast Asia Women's Association for their support, with a special thanks to Kesine for her constant kindness, support, and friendship. I also appreciate all of you for joining us today. Please feel free to drop your questions in the chat. We'll go through them at the end of the presentation. Before we dive into our discussion, I would like to share a personal observation that sparked my interest in this topic. In my first-year engineering classes, the number of female students is consistently low. Many of them express concerns about being the only woman in project teams, fearing that their skills might be unfairly judged. This issue reflects a broader reality. Women make up less than 20% of the AI workforce. This imbalance overall has significant implications for both the fairness and the effectiveness of AI systems. With this in mind, I'm excited to introduce today's speakers and explore strategies to address these challenges. Dr. Can Doğan, he is an associate professor of economics at Radford University. His research focuses on industrial organization, business forecasting, and international economics. He is a special sworn studies researcher with the Center for Economic Studies at the Census Bureau since 2019. His research work focusing on AI startups and their business performance received widespread attention both in academia and in the media, including coverage in the New York Times. He also has joined experimental research on how the perception of AI and algorithms differ from that of human advisors in the context of betrayal aversion that is published in Management Science. Can was a board member at Houston Intercontinental Chamber of Commerce and served on the board of YMCA International before moving to the state of Virginia. He is a senior fellow of American Leadership Forum. Thank you, Can, for being here.
Thank you, Julia, for the nice introduction.
Sure. Laurie Jennings began her tech career with industry leaders like EMC and Cisco before leading sales at a regional data consulting firm that expanded into staffing. During this time, she discovered her passion for recruitment while writing a business plan in her MBA program, inspiring her to launch an executive recruiting agency, Jennings Pro Search, in 2008. Her firm specializes in placing senior technical to executive leaders in tech, AI, in startups to mid-market companies. Laurie is actively engaged in the tech community, serving on the board of the Richmond Technology Council and Virginia Commonwealth University's Information Systems Advisory Board. Recently, she was appointed to the Virginia's AI Task Force, which advises Governor Youngkin on AI policy, ensuring guardrails are in place, promoting economic prosperity through innovating AI applications, and fostering more effective engagement with Virginia citizens. Thank you so much, Laurie, for joining us today.
Thank you, Julia.
Marie Sunsu Bey is a co-founder of ARA Platforms and a partner at Tidewater Research, pioneering tech innovations and AI-powered business strategy. With 13 years of experience transforming industries, she previously led multi-billion-dollar launches at Google after earning her MBA from the University of Washington. Alongside her business ventures, Marie is deeply committed to social impact through board leadership roles focused on AI education and women's empowerment. As a wife and a mother to a 2-year-old, she exemplifies how women can excel in tech while creating meaningful personal lives and empowering others through accessible technology. And thank you, Marie. We're so thrilled that you're here.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Helen.
Sure. Katie McMahon is an early pioneer in sound and conversational AI technologies. She is credited with bringing the iconic music recognition app Shazam to market, resulting in over 1 billion installs and its acquisition by Apple, and for commercializing voice AI products at the SoundHound AI. Katie is a member of BIML, Berryville Institute of Machine Learning, which reviews the systematic risk invoked by adopting machine learning in a haphazard fashion and aims to provide guidance for safe, secure, and ethical developments of AI technologies. A global keynote speaker, she serves as an advisor and board observer to multiple early-stage companies. She has helped build and bring to market Newsphere, a new app and a platform for professional journalists to reach audiences directly, which was launched in February 2025. Katie is the lead inventor on several patents in automatic speech recognition, natural language understanding, and sensory augmentation. McMahon has lived and worked in Tokyo, London, and Silicon Valley, and now is based outside of Washington, D.C. Thank you, Katie, for your time.
Thank you, Julia, and hello to everyone.
And their expertise will help us explore both the challenges and opportunities in using AI to promote gender equity in tech. Thank you all for being here, and let's dive into this vital conversation. So I would like to begin a question to all of our speakers, first and foremost. Given that women make up less than 20% of the AI workforce and biases in AI systems often mirror social inequalities, a key question is whether AI itself can be a part of the solution to closing the gender gap in technology. So I would like to ask each of you, do you think AI will close the gender gap in technology? What do you think?
I'll start. I absolutely think it can help bridge the gap, but it's going to take a while. And I think it's going to come with some challenges. It's not going to happen overnight. But I'm very excited about the opportunities that AI presents. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about today.
I look at it from a data perspective first. So where we are at this moment of inflection for the AI era, I think we need to recognize the embedding of today's world biases. There's a lot in that, and there is gender bias in that. So as the explosion of LLMs create a foundation for which many additional AI services are built, we need to recognize the internet was hoovered up, and within that there is garbage and sludge, sexism, and worse. And it affects everything. So from that perspective, we need to account for inherent gender bias as a starting point. In the ideal world, there would be no bias, but we need to challenge that because bias is inherent. So taking a look at the data is very important. On the positive side, the tools that are coming forward can absolutely allow a greater portion of women to enter and accelerate their voice within an AI ecosystem writ large. So that's very encouraging. Over to Mari.
Thank you. I am an entrepreneur, so I have to be optimistic. I think 100% it can bridge the gap. And the reason why I'm saying that is AI innovation doesn't only happen in the development side, I think. So for developers, they will always have to understand and I'll take account the user's perspective. And if more women becomes a user, AI user, and brings perspectives and shares the voice, it will be incorporated in the AI development as well. And I think that where a woman can really utilize this AI technology is that traditionally, a lot of repetitive and non-value adding work, such as admin work, is considered women's field. And that's where AI can really help foster the efficiency. So once we create more headspace, not doing repetitive work, we can focus on identifying the right problem, think about solution, like problem solutions, and making like strategic decisions. So that's what I think. Over to John.
Well, when it comes to closing the gender gap in technology, I think it is going to be a very bold statement. But I certainly believe that AI has the potential to narrow the gap. I see AI as a catalyst, or we can call it maybe a tool in our technology toolbox. And the advantage of AI is, unlike previous technologies, most AI applications are relatively easy to use and they do not require prior tech skills or know-how. So from this perspective, I see that it has certainly a lot of potential, but ultimately how much, I believe, depends on raising awareness and accessibility, but I am cautiously optimistic.
That's good. Thank you. So to delve deeper into this topic, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Can Doğan. Dr. Doğan will share his insights on the role of AI in startup businesses from an academic perspective. Dr. Doğan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Hülya. And I will be talking about AI diffusion, how businesses are adopting AI, and with a particular focus on startups. So I will be giving you some data from a macro perspective, and I hope that this will help us understand what is going on in AI ecosystem, particularly in the United States. So we have been talking about AI. You read the news everywhere. So there is certainly this AI hype. But when we look at the numbers, based on some of the surveys the Census Bureau conducts, the existing firms, when we look at the existing firms, around 6 to 8% of existing businesses are adopting AI. They are heavily using AI. And the literature shows that, and 6 to 8% is not a low number, it is, but given the AI hype, I think we are expecting a little more than 6 to 8%. And there are some reasons why there is some challenges in adopting AI, and some of them are there are significant operational changes that are required, particularly mid-size and big-size firms, high initial investment, lack of skilled workers. There are some legal and ethical barriers, particularly in some industries. And one of the main reasons why businesses say that they don't use AI is they don't find AI that is very applicable to their business line. So if it is 6 to 8% in existing businesses, how about the startups? So we are actually looking at all applications in the United States, and we identify applications that are AI related. We are using the business formation statistics administrative microdata, and I think to the best of our knowledge, this is the very first study that is using administrative data rather than the survey data. And we have so many interesting findings, but the ones that are relevant to our conversation is, first of all, we see that there is a significant increase in AI-related applications in the United States. And when we look at the trend, there is a spike, particularly after 2012, 2016, and 2023. The blue line you see is the increase in all applications in the United States. So since 2005, during the last 2 decades, number of applications doubled in the United States. But when we look at AI-related applications, it is actually 25-fold. So there is a significant increase in AI-related applications in the United States. And when we look at the share of these AI business applications by sector, professional, scientific, and technical services, finance and insurance, and information industries, they are receiving the bulk of AI applications and startups. So it is actually asymmetric across industries. When we look at the AI use by firm size, we have an interesting U-shaped pattern. Actually, firms with smaller sizes, 1 to 4 employees, the adoption rate in those firms are 4.6%. And the highest is like on the 2 ends of the spectrum, as you can see, the biggest firms and the smallest firms, they adopt AI mostly. And what does this mean? I think this may be an indication that AI may help close the technology gap, particularly between small and mid-sized firms, as AI increases the productivity of these smaller firms. And this, when the Business Trends and Outlook survey asks these firms, these are the firms that already use AI, what type of changes are you making to use AI? And we see that the top one almost is they are training their current staff to use AI. In comparison to hiring staff that are already trained AI, we see that firms are embracing AI mostly by training current staff. over hiring trained staff, which means that I think it is possible, it is feasible, and firms see that in that way. It is feasible to train their own existing workforce to use AI. So it is feasible. They believe that their existing workforce can learn how to use AI. And when we ask why they are not using AI, the ones who do not adopt AI, the main reason by far is AI is not applicable to this business, or lack of knowledge on the capabilities of AI. So again, this is an indication that AI is probably not fully commercialized yet. So there is this complex technology out there. Firms are trying to embed this technology in their production processes, but there's also a bulk of business that has not explored how they can use AI in their production process. So this is an indication that it is not fully commercialized yet, which means there are several opportunities. I think there are significant opportunities lying ahead of us. One common question that we receive a lot is whether AI will replace workers. So should we be concerned with this trend? Well, I should mention that we are actually looking at the early phase of AI. So again, what may change in the future is maybe a question mark. But in the short run, when we look at the early phase of AI, businesses are asked whether they increase their employment or decrease their employment during the last 6 months and what their expectations are for the next 6 months. And we see that most of the businesses, they are not expecting any changes in their workforce. Some are expecting to increase and some are expecting to decrease their workforce, but the net effect seems to be positive. So we conclude that during the early phase of AI adoption, businesses are replacing the tasks rather than the workers. So this is an indication that as the workers, if they are more knowledgeable about AI, they can keep their the status and they can still work for these companies. But the way they work will be different as they replace their tasks by using AI. So to sum up, what are the implications based on early life cycle of AI? First of all, AI startups and AI adoption by small firms are on the rise. So this is known, and I think this is a good sign that for many people who are thinking about some ideas, right? So they can use AI and maybe establish their own business. AI technologies are new and highly sophisticated. However, the use of AI is relatively easy and workforce can be trained to use AI. As I mentioned at the beginning, anyone can use AI to some extent. Maybe we may not understand the underlying technology, but it is relatively easy to use. And as we have seen, AI is not fully commercialized. There will be more opportunities as the technology is commercialized. So if you have an idea, if there is a business plan you have in mind that you haven't established yet, or if you would like to increase your productivity, let's take a look at AI and see what it can do for you. AI may help close the technology gap, particularly between small and mid-sized firms. And I like this quote from Shana Marathi from Carnegie Mellon University. You can actually think of generative AI as your co-founder for free, right? So whenever you have a question about any stage of business, establishing a business, you can easily ask AI and you'll get some reasonable answers. Maybe not fully reliable, but maybe 80-90% reliable. And again, my suggestion is we should think out of the box and try generative AI and just test the waters. And probably you will find the things that you're not maybe thinking at the beginning, but it will lead you some really nice ideas and that you will find so many things that will increase your productivity in AI ecosystem. I talked about the macro perspective, right? But I think we should also listen to experts and people who are in the field. And I would like to listen directly from Lori. She has been in the field and she thinks AI as a double-edged sword, right? So pros and cons and maybe some risks that are involved in using AI. So Lori, would like to hear from you.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it. And John, if you don't mind using my slide presentation, get that going.
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you. So again, I'm Lori Jennings. I'm the founder of Jennings Pro Search, which is an executive recruiting firm. I'm a business of one. So like Ken said, and I keep calling him Ken because it's John. Like John said, the smaller businesses are starting to adopt it a little more readily. I am personally leaning into it. Okay, I'll go back. That's fine. I'm really leaning into using it, and I wouldn't say as a co-founder like he described, but as my personal assistant. I use it for everything to do administrative tasks, including doing these slides for this presentation. I am not somebody that's very technical. I'm 58 years old. I didn't have a computer until I was 30 years old. Yet I've been in the industry for over 25 years and very successful at it. So I wanted to set that stage for you. I have never seen it. These Gen AI tools are just so much easier to use than PowerPoint or any of the other things that we've had for years. So I just want to start by saying that. And then as a recruiter in the industry for over, 16 years, I've definitely seen how hard it is for women to enter this industry and to move up in leadership. Although things are getting better, we still have a lot of challenges, ahead of us. But I do believe AI can help bridge that gap. So today I'm going to talk about some of the ways I think it can help in hiring. I'm going to cover those very quickly. I'm going to touch on that gender gap again and why we have some of that. And then I'm going to lead to a call to action for all of y'all. So if you want to find me, by the way, I'm on LinkedIn. Here's my LinkedIn address. Please feel free to connect with me. But when you send me that request, I just ask that you say that you are on this UN panel, because there's lots of chat bots and different things out there that are all coming in, and I don't always accept invitations to connect. All right. So with that, let's get started, John, with the next slide, and let's talk about some of the ways that AI can, and keep in mind, they may not be doing this right now, and I don't know that all these tools are that ready. But these are things, and you can use your Gen AI tool to look these up and explore them further. But it can help reduce that bias in screening and selection, right? So a lot of times it can strip out the names and anything gender related in a resume when we're looking at it. Because let's be honest, there is bias out there depending on who's reading it. And it's not always, and women are also have bias. So there's a lot of bias out there when looking at resumes, and I think this is very helpful. I personally don't use these, but I have taken that bias test, and if anybody's never done that, I think you'd be surprised. Go out there and Google unconscious bias assessments and things. I think Harvard has some case studies that can kind of talk to that. So this can help, eliminate some of that bias. It can also, and this is something I use a lot, is to create more inclusive job descriptions. I don't know if any of you ever, but 5 years ago or previous, I would get these job descriptions for ninjas or rock stars. You probably saw them in development. It used to drive me crazy. And I'd have males saying, hey, I really want to attract more women into these jobs, but I don't understand why I'm not doing it. Well, we don't really necessarily want to be a ninja or a rock star. That kind of turns us off. Other things, that could be in there for leadership is if you want an aggressive or a dominant leader. Women think themselves as probably more collaborative and motivated. So words do matter. And, you can get specific tools to help you write these job descriptions that are gender neutral, that will help attract or maybe not turn off women to applying to them. So I think that's something that's there that I use all the time. And you can use this in ChatGPT or any other Gen AI tool now. It's very helpful. If you write a description, you can ask it to do that and make it gender neutral. One of the other ways is making the process fairer. It can help structured interview frameworks and ensure that every candidate is assessed in a consistent and fair manner. I don't know how much this is being used right now, but I think it really, I have heard in some situations where people are trying to use this. It can also flag people for bias when you're going through the interview analysis. There are tools that can help you do that, making sure that hiring teams make fairer decisions. It also, once you get in, it can help support career development and retention. I don't know how much this is being used, but I can use this on Gen AI. I do it all the time. I look at different roles and kind of what are the steps I should be taking. You know, I look at these kind of things, and I think all of y'all can use any Gen AI tool right now, play with this to kind of help you create a career development plan that can support you. And it'll show you how to get these skill sets too, very readily, you know, how you can upgrade. And I think this is what I like. It can democratize leadership and expertise. You know, I don't know how many times we've been in a boardroom or in any type of meeting when you may be the only woman in the room and you try to make a point and men just talk over you. You're full of men. They talk over you. You've been saying the same thing. And then a man speaks up and says it. And they're like, great point. And you're just like, exactly, like, oh my gosh. So I think it can help in that way by playing, you know, by leveling the playing field, by looking at data, relying more on decisions on data and strategic thinking versus the loudest room in the voice in the room. And you know, I've used this when I've been in a room and maybe not heard, and I can follow this up in writing. And this is and AI can help me really make these points a lot better. So these are just some ways. I don't use a lot of this, and I think some of these are still being developed. They're not quite there. And as we've said, there's a double-edged sword, right? There's a lot of this only works if there's no bias. And Katie's mentioned, and we all know that bias is built into historical data that's out there. She covered that very well. She can cover that more deeply, but that's going to affect that. The big thing I want to talk about today, though, and we can look at the next slide, is that the gender gap. We've talked about it. There's 20%, no more than 20% of women that have their seat at the table that are creating these models, that are training these models, right? And we need to step up to do that. There are even less women, less than 15, that hold executive level positions in tech and AI. These are the people making the decisions on transparency, on policy, and things like that. And yet we're not being at the table there. And then when you look at people who are downloading these AI tools, there's 10 to 20% less women right now downloading these Gen AI tools and experimenting with them than men. The good news is I looked up and I saw this, and I'm not sure if it's true, but it looks like girls in their teens are downloading at a higher rate these tools, 55% to 50%. So that's awesome, and I applaud that. All right. So let's talk about why. Yes, some of these causes, you may be aware of this, but I've been in tech. We've been talking about this for the 25 years I've been in tech, trying to get more women in, and maybe why we don't have them. You know, and a lot of this goes down to early adoption. It goes down to when we're children and, you know, not being reinforced. We're not being guided towards careers in STEM, and instead we're being guided sometimes by our mothers at more gender things that are more, you know, common towards women, like teaching and nursing and things like that. So that's, you know, I think that's a big reason. And I think too, we've studied it, that we think that we need to try to get girls involved more in middle school than if you wait until high school or later, it's harder to get them interested. I think once you do make it, say you get through education and you've gone out there and you've made it into the tech industry, then there's the workplace challenges, the same ones when we saw when you're trying to take classes and maybe you drop out because you were the only woman in the room. You know, the same thing happens when you show up at work and you're the only woman, or there's only a few women, and there's that systemic, you know, there's challenges in your work, not to mention work-life balance. Tech itself, they have long hours. Most, you know, it's a hard job. You're working nights and weekends sometimes. And it gets even worse, you know, once you start having kids, we see women dropping out at a high rate, or they just don't go after they don't go after leadership roles or to advance their careers because they've got to balance that, you know, they got to juggle that balance. And then you just don't see women role models out there. And I think that's what we're here for, right? We all want to be role models. And I want to encourage you, if you are in tech, please be role models. Look down and bring other women up. I've been so lucky to be surrounded by wonderful women the last 15 years of my career that have not only helped me, give me confidence, they've educated me, but they've been there to support me throughout. And it has just made a big difference. So I encourage you all, you know, to help mentor people. All right, here's the good news. The good news, and we've talked about this a little bit, AI is creating new job opportunities that align better with women's skill sets. They're leaning into the soft skills. Now we are considering the power skills. Things like communication, storytelling, showing empathy, adaptability, right? These are things we've always had to have that we're very good at. And now the technicals, AI is doing a lot of those technical things that maybe we it's not that we weren't good at, but maybe we weren't interested in, or we just weren't. I'm terrible at tech. I'm terrible, but I absolutely love Gen AI tools. And right now we're seeing some positions that are being created that are that I think will lean into that. It's things like data annotators and data ethicists and things that you can look up that are coming. I don't think we're quite there yet. I just saw an article in the Wall Street Journal last night that maybe less than 2% of jobs that are posted right now are these type of jobs, right? But what I can tell you as a recruiter, and if you go out there and look at any job board, that about a third of jobs now are requiring AI skill sets. They want people that have used Gen AI. So I would encourage you to all get out there and start experimenting with them because that's coming. All right. AI also, the good news is it enables us to learn more rapidly, right? I can go out there. You no longer have to go get a college degree. Like I had to go through 2 years of getting an MBA to write a business plan and have people look over it. Now you can, AI can help you do some of these things a lot more, there's more access to these things. It can open more pathways. And I think that's really, really exciting. So here's my call to action for you all. I want to end with, I want you all to get involved in shaping AI policy because we need a seat at the table, right? And you can do this. I think they shared. I'm on the Governor of Virginia's AI task force. I'm involved in helping shape AI policy. All of you can do that. I think if you're in the United States, I know that they're looking at the states to come up with their own policies. And I go and look at those states, go on your governor's sites. Ours is an Office of Regulatory Management, and look and see what's being done for AI. All of our meetings are publicly held so that people, anybody as a citizen from anywhere can come in and listen to these. And they also encourage you to speak up and to send in information. So look at these things, be curious, figure out how you can get involved in policy creation, because I think that's really, really critical. And really upskill. I want to challenge you all, if you have not used this, and I'll be honest, I've started to use it over the last couple of years, but more so in the last couple of months, I have really leaned into it. And part of it, I got to see Mari speak, and she's going to speak in a moment. And she really encouraged me. We have a thing in Richmond called AI Ready RVA. We call Richmond, Virginia RVA. And it's something we formed in the last 8 months that is there to educate people on how to use AI tools. And we have a women's cohort. And we sold this last meeting out where Mari spoke, and we sat around for over 2 hours talking about how we're using this in both our personal and professional lives. And these weren't tech people. Well, there were some, but this was the whole community. This is what it's doing. It's bringing communities together. And that's what I think is so powerful. We had people from the art world. We had people from government, from educators, from all walks, entrepreneurs in this room. And it was just so exciting. So I encourage you to get involved, to mentor and support other women in tech. And like I said, form these women's cohorts. You can start small, just by people that you know. Step up and just ask people to get together and informally talk over wine or cheese or whatever it is that you feel it can do, and discuss AI literacy and best practices, because I think this is so important in moving us forward. So that's pretty much what I'm wrapping up. I'm going to turn it over now to Mari, who's going to talk about how it can be used as a superpower.
Thank you so much, Lori. Hi, I hope you can all see my screen. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Morning, afternoon, evening, depending on where you are. I'm Mari, and as Hula introduced me, I'm an AI entrepreneur, but I actually want to tell you just 2 things that's way more important than any other technology. So one is to see opportunities that others don't. And 2 is refusing to accept the limitations that others put on you. The reason why I'm telling you this is because I worked my way up based on these 2 principles. I want to just tell you a little bit about my story so that either it resonates with you or it inspires you in some way. Slide. Okay. So I came to the US when I was 18, all by myself. I had a few $100 in my pocket, and I had a one-way ticket to Detroit. I didn't have any safety net. I didn't have any adult guidance. So I had to figure out all by myself. I had, well, 4-year scholarship. I had the pure determination, but that wasn't enough. I was living in a suburb of Detroit, working for 2 jobs, making $3 per hour just to pay bills while completing triple majors. I led 2 student organizations and finishing 3 internships. And through it all, I really had one obsession, and that was climbing. I desperately needed to live my American dream. And I was tired of being broke. I was tired of just struggling and being invisible. And I really refused to accept that my circumstances at the moment would define me. So my obsession, I had this one goal. Like I wanted to climb. And that obsession led me to get an MBA. It got me to Google eventually, where I launched multi-billion-dollar products. And it led me to co-founding my 2 AI startups. One is Ara Platforms, and the second is Tidewater Research. And well, I'm here telling you a story, not just as an AI entrepreneur, but as a wife, as a mom, and as just a woman to prove that nothing is impossible. And this is where AI chimes in, because AI is really unlocking unprecedented opportunities for us to climb up higher than ever before. So let's talk about AI. Oh, that's me. That's my picture at Google. Okay, so the woman advantage in AI. Well, throughout my career in tech, I've really witnessed firsthand how AI and technology just changes our everyday life. It's fascinating. But I also noticed one thing, like Lori said before, all this technological advancement is dominated, I guess, driven by men, which is great, I think, because, male brain are just so good at developing technologies, right? And I'm benefiting from it. But what's missing in this AI innovation and technological advancement is women's perspective. So that's what I want to talk about today. The developers are AI, and investors who are funding all this development and startup, the decision maker who are shaping the future, they're all men. And I actually had a recording of a Y Combinator, which is the most prestigious startup accelerator in the world. And if you see, they're talking about the infrastructure, they're talking about, I don't know, the GPS satellite system, HVAC. It's all cool, but I kind of don't care as a woman. Good for them. But what about childcare? What about nursing? What about midwifery, speech therapy? These are industries where over 80% of the employment are female. And this field could be $1 billion opportunity where the AI development currently barely touched the scratch of. So imagine what AI could do if it's guided by our perspective, our firsthand expertise, experience. So these are my ideas. I'm just throwing it out there. An AI wedding planner, where it just plans a perfect wedding for you. It executes the plan by making reservations, reaching out to the vendors, coordinates everything. So there you go, you have a wedding. Second, AI doula. No, it predicts the birth complications. It gets ahead of, I don't know, postpartum health issues. It triages to the right healthcare provider just for you. 3, AI homeschool day, like when the school closed for whatever reason, snow day, AI will look at the weather forecast. It plans your homeschool day and orders supplies for you if needed automatically. These are my original ideas, and it's just fun. This is something what I do. So I want to share the AI opportunity framework. This has become my default operating system these days because I want to find the right problems and I want to look for opportunities where I can leverage AI. So it's just in 4 steps. So first is the pain point discovery. And what I mean by pain point discovery is some of the things that you encounter every day, or again, in women-led industry, like beauty, wellness, hair salon, I don't know, you name it, childcare. Something that drains your energy and creates frustration that you just keep saying, like, this is ridiculous. Second is market validation. And what I mean by that is, with that pain point, are you the only one? Like, am I the only one who feels this way? Or is it my community? Is this the city? Is it my country? Is this universal? And second, you just dream about the solution. Like, don't worry about the technological constraint. Like, you don't have to worry about that. Just imagine, in my ideal world, this is the experience that I want. That's how you create solution. And the 4th step is I would brainstorm with AI. So like, not only do I leverage AI in the solution, but I would also brainstorm with it. Use ChatGPT, use Claude, Gemini. There are a lot of chatbots. So you feed all of these into an AI chatbot and ask the right question, like, what do you think about this? And you iterate. This is just a thought exercise for me. Again, to find the right problem to work on. And I'll tell you how I came up with this like AI doula idea. It's a very personal story. So the pain point that I had was I had a traumatic birth experience and it was ridiculous. I gave birth, right? I had a C-section and I had a newborn baby. I came home with a newborn baby and with my husband, who was like equally clueless. Like, we're all first-time parent. We didn't know what to do. After a few days, we kept the baby alive, which is great, but I was slowly dying. My C-section scar was popped open. I was bleeding constantly for day after day, and I called the doctor. I went to the doctor office the next day. I went to the ER next day for multiple days, and they all turned me away, saying that that's normal. And I know it's not normal. I know something was off. I was bleeding like crazy. So, and on day 7, I think, I had to collect all the evidences, my pants soaked with blood, all the napkins and tissues that I used to collect my own blood. And I had to go to ER and tell them, like, look, this is not normal. I'm dying. They finally ran a test on me. And they said that, well, your white blood cell is out of the roof. You have an infection. So that was it. That was just ridiculous, right? So after that, well, I survived, by the way. I survived. That's why I'm here. And after that, I wanted to look into, like, how crazy is this experience? Am I that one-off? Am I so unlucky that I had to almost die after giving birth? And I look into HWO. I talked to so many people around me, so many moms. And apparently, over 1.5 million women experience this life-threatening postpartum complications every year. So this is sad, but it's a fruitful problem to work on, right? And I thought, like, in my ideal world, I would have AI analyze all my symptoms. I would just take a picture of my C-section scar open. I would have AI advocate for me, for my immediate care, and triages me to the right treatment. So I fed everything to AI, and you don't have to read all these things, but it basically told me there are different regulations, there are different system integrations. So told me about all the challenges, right? So if I really want to pursue this idea, these are things that I have to consider. So you see how my framework works. Again, this is what I do every single day. Instead of complaining about my problems now, I would always find an opportunity to use AI. So let's talk about next steps. Your next steps, I would say, starts now. So I believe that the role in AI, our role in AI, is not to be better at coding. AI is already better than a lot of software engineers, right? But your role is to be obsessed with people's problem and discover it. You find the right problem to work on and you plug AI to solve it, right? You have to be this visionary. And what's gonna give you the head start is your perspective and your experience, especially in women-dominant experience and industry. And the next step you need to do, well, I'm gonna just skip the QR code, but you have to connect with me on LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn, and whichever idea, the problem that you counter, whichever solution that you found, tell me. We're gonna be entrepreneur together. We're gonna be in this movement together. And I want you to just think about this homework. I want you to like block the calendar for just 30 minutes of your time, right? And just go through the framework really quick. And sorry about the second part. I don't think we're in the same room, but if you happen to connect with people, find them on LinkedIn too. Because like Lori said, we have to build this community. You have to surround yourself with the right kind of people. So that is all I have prepared. And the last take, you don't have to remember everything that I said, but really one thing that you're gonna remember from this talk is that the future of AI is not getting into AI development, being technical. It's really about finding a better problem to solve. And I think Joan mentioned it earlier today that AI doesn't really have the learning curve, right? Everybody can get into it. And one of the ways how I use AI every single day is I open ChatGPT using voice mode and I just talk through everything. And I want Katie to talk more about the AI, voice AI, and the conversational AI. This is all I have prepared. Thank you very much, everyone.
Mari, thank you for that and sharing deeply personal experience. I think we'll take that away. And it's interesting, in the chat, we're seeing questions bubble up about women's healthcare writ large. So that's something I think when we come back to the panel time, we'll spend some more time on. Now, before I dive into my slides, we have, for those who have come into the room a little late, right? We have this panel. Each person is given a presentation. I will do the last 10 or 12 minutes so, and then we'll come back as a group. But it's a 90-minute session, which is a little long. And I'll just share, early in my career, I worked in Tokyo. And when I would take trips back home to the East Coast of the US, they were long haul flights. And I remember my first Japan airline trip, whereby in the middle of the Pacific, we're 6, 7, 8 hours in at the stage, the air hosts came in to the aisles and very politely and gently suggested we all raise our hands, shake, shoulder raises like that. And I'll never forget, because it was done so politely. It was an example of cross-cultural awareness. Me being a Westerner, I had begun to learn that in a communal society such as Japan, the politeness of operating in a way where one leader says do something and it's known to do it. I appreciate so many people are on camera on the audience. If you feel comfortable coming back on camera, we would love that, but I also understand if you're multitasking. But just take a second, it's a long session. Take a deep breath in, shake out your hands, roll up your shoulders, because sitting for a while is rough. So totally an opportunity, shake it out, and then we've got our blood flowing again. So welcome everyone. So my name is Katie McMahon, and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a tech executive, an inventor, and the executive director at BIML, which is Berryville Institute of Machine Learning, where I spend some time in a think tank. But most of my time is spent as an operator in many ways in the Silicon Valley vein of how to build companies from lab to product to mass market. And I have been in this for a very, very long time. So if we go to the next slide, I just want to honor in many ways all of our journeys. They are squiggly, okay? So some of you on this call have been within your organizations for 20 years, 25 years, 5 years. Others of you are looking around and maybe knowing you will go to another opportunity. We have highs and we have lows in our career paths. So in tech, so I have worked in Asia. I have worked in Europe for many, many years. I've been based in Silicon Valley and done partnership deals throughout the world, including South America, India, EMNA. And I've had big wins. So inside of Shazam, I helped take that company from a very dying off point to bring it into the mobile era and helped integrate it into ultimately where it would land inside of Apple. Today, it has been used 100 billion times. I then spent a decade at SoundHound AI, which was a pioneering conversational voice AI company, and it really brought forward the world's first conversational state of AI, where you can continuously have queries, you could use negation. That was a really big deal pre-LLM, and post-LLM, it's more in the spotlight in terms of what voice interfacing really means. So here I am on my journey today. I'm just sharing that for context as in terms of what I'll be sharing with you in a little more specifics. So let's zoom out. Where have we been in tech? There has been the mobile app era from 2007, when, in fairness, the credit goes to Apple and Steve Jobs in rolling out this screen computer and then allowing individual developers around the world to deploy and distribute their apps. So we have absolutely moved in and through the app era. It's not over. It's still going to keep going. But look what it's done to our society. If I click forward, we see that the shift, and the next slide, the shift in society has been from a user experience, this, right? We walk around and we just do this. That is a global phenomenon. I imagine everyone on this call, wherever you're based globally, whether you're rurally based or in the most populated city on the planet, every day you now see people with what I call text neck. That's when their head is down and they're replying on message, they're having their social engagement. This was the rise of the attention economy. We have been sucked into the screen. That's a conversation for another day on the pros and the cons and the social ramifications. Where I want our brain to go now is, what is this, the rise of Gen AI, the rise of the AI era? There's a lot in that. Let's just take a quick snapshot inside of this chart. John had another chart much cleaner that showed the inflection point. It's all lining up around 2022. That was the moment OpenAI unleashed LLMs for mass market to be aware of. The use of that OpenAI product was faster in terms of end user consumption than any other product. Instagram took 2 months to reach a million users. Spotify took 6 months, to give you a proportion of mass market impact. So economically, we do know that the AI hype, it's going to be real. And I loved that John's first presentation helped us discretize a little bit of what's happening right now. Do we discount it? Is it real? Is it not? How will it look over the arc of time? And who's adopting and why? All those go into what this landscape looks like 2 years out, 5 years out, 20 and 50 years out. But high level, it is here. You need to be aware of it. And just by coming into this session today, you are showing your hunger and aptitude to word up, if you will. We'll move forward. Next slide, please. How are businesses using AI today? The biggest buckets fall into cost savings and increased efficiencies. I want to point out 2 columns. The first call center automation. This is really a massive tip of spear where the user experience by deploying voice agents and chatbots is accelerating. Will the ramification be less call center humans? Yes. Will the ramification be cost saving to those companies? Yes. Does the end user benefit if the agent in a human-like voice provides clarity for their problem quickly with empathy? Yes. And there are many companies behind the scenes filling that, accelerating it, and making it work really well. Jump across to AI-based enhancements of products, the 22%, the second to last column. I want to hold on that as a place where businesses are looking at, how do I put AI into my stuff? What could that look like? So if we click forward to the next slide, this is where I'm going to bring us really narrow, but it's wide. Within AI, there is a subset of AI called voice and conversational AI. Sometimes you'll hear it as voice AI or conversational AI or NLP, natural language processing, natural language understanding. That is the science that has helped bring forward language. It used to just be language transcription and then put into other black boxes and systems to understand the meaning. There is an entire field. It's very complicated and it has accelerated. The big guys that you know of, Anthropic with their product cloud, they've got OpenAI, Gemini out of Google. Massive giants are in this field, but there are also startups that play in the space of voice cloning, voice characters. So I want to talk to you for the next 3 or 4 minutes on how you might consider voice AI in what you do. The cool thing here is you don't have to think about it as this is new Gen AI. We've had voice for a decade now. So pre-LLM, suddenly there was Siri, really the GOAT. I mean, we can hate on Siri for some of its failures, but nowhere else can you say, hey, Siri, call my husband. Hey, blah, blah, blah. I'm hoping all my machines don't turn off. That has been live for 12, 15 years. We've spoken to them. Think about it from an end user's perspective. Let's go forward to see what I like to introduce as generation voice. Why should you be aware of and think about generation voice? We all think about Gen Z. What are the trends? These are digital natives that have come up. They're the youngest in the workforce. They're trendsetters. The child born from 2012 onward amongst very technologically based households saw a thing come into their house called the Amazon Echo. You could speak to a machine, it's not a person, a machine that they did name Alexa. Amazon has taken the path of, to some degree, anthropomorphizing that machine to be a woman. I personally dislike that wholeheartedly, and I train my children and reiterate that you are interfacing with compute power. You are interfacing with a machine. Machines are fallible. They are not human. In the future, will machines adapt and be created to a level to mimic human? We're very close to that today. Again, another massive topic for a different session. This picture, still screen time, but she is speaking to these things. On Chromebooks, young students do voice first Google searches. My point is, this entire generation, digital native, they are voice first natives. We're still always going to touch, type, and swipe. We'll still have keyboards for quite a long time. But the human modality of speaking to engage with computer power is massive. So point 1 on closing a gender imbalance in technology writ large, this is huge unlock. And I peel it away from just gender stuff. It's about a democratization. Can people in the globe that may not have had formal access even to a basic education, will they have a mobile device that they can speak to in their native language and pop back information and pop back tools. I predict there will be extraordinary entrepreneurs that are from outskirts of disenfranchised society who can, with the climbing that Mari spoke about, with the hunger, they will have tools to access power from computers unlike ever seen in humanity. That's an exciting thing. Young girls today, young boys today can come into an ecosystem where they can be really smart entrepreneurs. We hope it'll all be ethically based. That's another topic I think on the panel we'll touch on. Now, coming back to the end user experience, just to make you aware or start thinking through, it won't just be this device that you speak into. Heads up voice interfacing will go across many, what we call in the industry, surfaces. What is a surface? A surface is frankly anything that will have a microphone to capture the sound out of your lungs, send it to a cloud, process it, and send back the intended interaction. AirPods, earbuds will be huge. I think connected glasses, already Meta, Ray-Ban, for example, you can call up and say, you can simply be heads up, hey Meta, who was the 15th president, blah, 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 and you get that answer right to your ear without the distraction of the text neck mobile screen. Clicking ahead, let's see, let me just capture a minute of your attention for those of you who want to feel a little deeper, more deeply articulate on AI, specifically large language models, which is LLMs. I'm going to share with you a term that we at BIML, so again, this think tank, which is an independent think tank looking predominantly at machine learning security, but really we play in the wider AI space to poke holes at risks. There are risks. So in my introduction, when I mentioned, I look at data, like the data backs up everything. Data is gold. Data brought forward this breakthrough of LLMs because of the architectural improvements, and Google really owns a lot of big kudos for bringing forward the transformer model. So let me just explain recursive pollution. The whole world of data has been hoovered up. And this is incomprehensible for us. We cannot understand how massive that data set is. These companies, the foundation model companies, of which there is only a handful, they have literally ingested everything ever written and put into the internet. And that can be fantastic works from the Encyclopedia Britannica, which we think is real information. But it also includes every angry person's rant, every misogynistic thing ever typed up there and put up on a Reddit thread. All of that goes into the world of data. Now, the way these models work, stochastic models bring back the next word, the next word. Again, these are not human that you're talking to. When it spits out an amazing response to your query, that is a machine predicting the next word based off of that entire catalog of data. There will be a feedback loop that trains future models. So just take a minute, read this slide. LLMs can sometimes be spectacularly wrong. That's called hallucinations. At BIML, we call it, it's just wrongness. And they can do it in a way that it is confident. So you start to believe it, or maybe you lift that text and you put it out there in your work and your presentation and your product. That LLM output is then pumped back into training data, that ocean of data. Future LLM may end up being trained on that very polluted data. This is called a feedback loop. And at BIML, we recognize this as a potential very bad situation where very wrong information gets repopulated back to the top of the curve and stays in the output engine, whereas long tail gets chopped away. Next slide. How do you handle this? Why have I told you about it? I just want you armed with knowledge, because you're going to go back into your organization and say, I've learned about AI. How can we build some stuff? Go do that exercise. Do it. But there are 3 buckets of risk to consider. If we move forward, the first bucket 1. So of these 3 buckets, 2 you can do nothing about, 1 you can. Just be aware of it. The first bucket is their data. Who is there? That's the vendor. That's the foundation model. It's whoever you're using to supply some degree of some AI stuff. Just be aware. Where did their data come from? What are their processes for evaluation? There are people asking great questions in our chat because it comes back to the ethics. What bodies look at the ethics of it? The dirty truth is these are black boxes of data to whom the scientists don't actually even know what's in there. So that's real. This isn't meant to scare you writ large. Don't not use it. You just have to be aware of it. Next risk is all on you. So bucket 2 on the next slide is your data. It's your work. Okay, what models are you choosing and why? Then you might do something called alignment. You might do RAG. You might do prompt engineering work. That part of the work is your work. You own it. But be very cognizant of data, your organization's private data. I'll just say, don't send it out there without really thinking about it. Do not give it to the data ocean slurper-uppers. Be careful with your data. It is your golden data. We foresee a world of data moats where people are going to hold their data as being true and real. There are ways on engineering where you can cipher it out. So your data, your private information, and be very, very, very careful of your stakeholder, whether that's your customer in healthcare. That's why in Mari's slide, she comes up against what would I have to deal with for an AI doula? And it's complicated, right? So she's aware of it. She's seen out there PII, private information for that individual. In the end, it's your decision. It's your control. The last bucket of risks just to be aware of are the unassigned. What does that mean? It's the big. This is the ethical and the philosophical conversation. It's the entirety of societal input, universal data. This is really about what world are we going to live in, but to recognize society, political thought is all in there. And frankly, it's very Western heavy. Frankly, it's very US heavy. We need to recognize that today the giants are situated in certain geolocations that they themselves bring bias, unbiased. It's there. So, and it's very interesting on a geopolitical level, upstarts or breakthroughs coming through from a deep seek. But again, we don't really have measurements. We don't really know what is getting tested in a way that is one-to-one. How much of this is jazz hands? How much is this timing? Are there what's called attacks in a machine learning sense? There's so much behind it. Okay, so those three buckets, now you have some thinking around it. Let's wrap this with like, hey, this is a wave, right? So I turn back into, you can build startups and you can build organizations that are 200 years old. By knowing when waves are coming, where are you positioned? Did you paddle out? Maybe you missed the mobile thing and you didn't get a mobile app out there until 5 years later and some other person got the advantage. This AI thing is truly massive. See this wave coming. Click forward, please. And I ask you, just the takeaway is, what will you build? Build is loaded. You don't have to go out and start a whole new division in your organization. Build can be a term that fits you in your personal life and in your professional life with your organization. But what will you blank in the AI era? Your organization is of consequence. Otherwise, it would not have your time. It would not have your bone marrow. You give more than just an average worker. You give your heart and you're giving your soul. You're giving a ton of your life into your organization. So go off and build it, whether it's the product, it's how you build more data set, policy. Is it a marketing campaign? Is it about service? Is it about end user interaction? Building your team in a different way. Build this and build your life of consequence with some of the power and empowerment that you're hearing from today. So thank you so much. I'm excited to get back to the panel now. Thank you for listening and thank you for your time. Here I am to find me. Over to you guys. Thank you, Huda.
Thank you so much, Katie. And thank you for all the speakers for these great presentations. Now we have a lot of great conversation going on in the chat, and we'll begin with the question and answers. Well, let's begin with the first one. So how do you see the use of AI improving women's healthcare? And we have some derivations of this question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Mari, please.
So I wanted to say, actually, yeah, it's a very broad question. So I kind of want to break it down to who are the entities in women's healthcare. So the way how I think, again, this is me trying to problem solve with like framework. I think that there are probably 4 different entities in women's healthcare. One would be the provider. Second would be the staffs working in this industry, right? And third would be the middleman, which is like the insurance, government, whatsoever. The last one would be the patient. So depending on which entity we talk about, the solution will be different. So the way how AI can help the providers, for example, would be helping provider writing the patient's note, right? Helping the doctors diagnose the disease correctly, look at the lab result and see abnormalities, right? So that would be one. For the admins and staffs, it would be removing inefficiencies. Again, removing those repetitive, non-value-adding works that they have to do. Confirming the appointment, reminding the appointment, setting an appointment, all those things, billing, you name it. Government insurance, probably the same thing. They're probably the biggest bottleneck in this whole flow, and it would improve in efficiency for a lot of paperwork. Patients, it will help me. I wouldn't have to go through this crazy experience of almost dying and having 50% chance of survival. So that's how I see. I think where AI can chime in immediately would be removing those inefficiency of paperwork, reminders from small, and it's gonna get bigger to actually help patients and doctors. And Katie, sorry.
No, that was perfect in terms of laying out those opportunities. Today in market in the US, there are AI startups that are dead set on solving, for example, the scribe inside when you go see the doctor, there's the doctor and there's usually a person that is typing up the notes. So the question is, can AI transcription solve for that? And for the most part, yes, but they need to be specialized with the language. Again, recently there was a report that came out that looked at medical records coming through AI pipelines, and it actually showed 83% error rate. So that's a setback, and we need to be aware of it because you don't want the wrong data in the notes in your files. What I would love to see is out on the edges. So in communities that are disenfranchised from greater medical access, could there be fast, nimble startups that leverage tools so that end user mobile phones are there? Can we have real-time access? Can you instantly just say, right, hey Siri or hey Google, get me a doctor? Boom, and then real-time connected. That's a little snippet of AI connecting, bring the human back in, or second tranche, an AI doctor bot, so long as that has been tested to 99.9 reliability. Can that get deployed to bring up all levels of access? So there are just a few thoughts on that one.
Great. Thank you. And I have some questions in a while. So how do you think, maybe this might be good for Lori, how do you think AI would be beneficial for older women?
Thank you for picking the oldest person in this room to answer
Oh,
that
it's
question. No, it's great. Yeah, so I'm 58 years old, and I think age, yes, there's age discrimination for sure out there. I see it quite often. But I also, when I'm talking to people in my age range or whatever is considered 40s, 50s, whatever is considered old now in tech, and when I talk to them about, their experience when they say they're getting age discrimination, the first thing I do is I look at their LinkedIn profile and I look to see if it's up to date. I look to see if they've written it and stayed relevant for today's terminology. Is it filled out the way people look at it now? Do they have videos? Are they commenting? Are they filling out their profiles? Do they have a good story? Are they telling their story from a personal standpoint versus the old traditional way of third person or very business focused? People want to see your vulnerable side. They want to know who you are now. So I look at that when I'm talking to people. And if I don't see that, that's the first thing I encourage them to do. And I'm going to encourage all of y'all to do, to take a look at your LinkedIn profile and to make sure that it's updated. And there's so much you can go into Gen AI, you can go into LinkedIn, and they can talk about how to optimize that right now. I think some people in my age generation, we used to stay at the same companies forever. And that's, that could be applauded. At the same time, if you're in a company that's not moving forward with technology, you're going to be behind. So sometimes you have outdated skills, and a lot of people that have waited and stayed at these companies, now they're finding themselves laid off because they're making a lot of money. They know that they want to move forward with these new technologies. You don't have the capability. You don't know how to use these new technologies. So they're going to bring in somebody that's less expensive and that knows these technologies to help get them there. So what I tell people is Gen AI, and I think this might go to a question that I saw in the chat box. How can it help us get up to speed? By being curious, going to Gen AI, go in there and ask them, what should I be knowing right now? I mean, you can ask it anything. You can use it through voice. You can ask it, the good thing is it's available to all of us when we need it. We don't have to be signing up for courses on their times if those don't fit our schedule. You can do it while you're walking, getting your exercise or walking your baby around in a carriage. You can talk with these devices now and have this personal assistant to say, hey, here's, I've been stuck in this company, whatever, in this job. Where's my job going? Give me that, utilizing my skill sets. How can I upskill? And what are the jobs now that I should be looking at? It can tell you that. Then it can recommend courses that you can do. It is just amazing what it can do. So I'd first just be aware, go out there and find out, what are your skills? Is it age or are you staying relevant? Because yes, there's age discrimination, but a lot of it is relevancy. I'm 58. I do not feel irrelevant. I do not feel age discrimination, although I do see it and I know it's available, different cultures, different areas. And I personally, at this age, refuse to work with companies and clients who I feel are discriminating based on any, on age or gender, ethnicity, anything. So I don't know. I hope that answered the question. Anybody else have anything to add?
I maybe not directly related to the question, but I believe it is important when you use AI. I think you should be ready, or we all should be ready for suggestions or feedback that are not traditional. So if you have an idea in mind, please don't expect AI that will show you how to make you more productive following the same pathway. Maybe AI is going to show you something totally different that is much more effective than what you have in mind. So when you use AI, I think we should have an open mind and try different venues and try different things when it is suggested by AI.
Thank you.
Just to add one more thing, sorry, again, probably a slightly different from the question itself, like how would AI benefit older women, right? But I think just generally as a woman, I think we value different things than our male counterpart, right? One of the biggest thing is we love experience. We love this interpersonal, social experience, and women like to be more on the front end. And I think that's how we should think about using AI. AI shouldn't be on the front end. It should be on the back end so that ladies, we can be in the front end, dealing with actual people, making their experience better, and let the AI work on the back end create system, right? And just brainstorm together and think about, I mean, understanding and analyzing your audience, your industry. So the back-end think should be done by AI. And again, if you remember that I should be on the front end and AI should be on the back end, it can really enhance any kind of experience from day to day to your job to creating your community. It can make everything better. That was just one thing.
Let me
you.
lob in just as well, and then we move on to a different topic of question. But for an older generation, let's go much older, a retired senior citizen generation, the voice interfacing unlock will be huge. There are companies very focused on that space. Some have been successful, others have been hard. But again, finding the right user experience is difficult. In a world where it's all ideal, do we thread elder care and societies that lack care human agents to have machines in the space for safety, for call response? And they do test, they're testing verbal interaction because we all know decline occurs without social interaction. Japan is very much at the forefront in researching this due to their own demographics. So keep an eye on this space. It's going to be very interesting.
Thank you, Katie. And let's shift the topic because I have a lot of questions about the ethics. So how do you think the woman can contribute to the ethics of AI? Who would like to maybe jump in? Katie?
Oh, we do need to have voices in this because it is being driven by computer scientists today. I would love to see more cognitive scientists at the table, but it's got to go everywhere. It needs to be from a philosopher through to a technician. All the voice needs to be at the table. It can be coming from literally anywhere. Someone had asked what entities are out there that are independent, right? UNESCO has an AI ethics kind of group, and it looks at issues of human rights and dignity and fairness and non-discrimination, transparency and accountability, privacy and data protection, environmental impact, which we didn't even touch on, but that's a big one. So for example, right off the bat, if you're in environmental sciences, you have a voice. How does this stuff get powered? Is it depleting the earth? So how do you do it? You go in these organizations showing up today, you can flex. You are powerful people at the table and you have channels, use them, rattle up. If there's not a committee, get one going, but get yourself on it. It's okay to do degrees of chatter on the public sphere, professional ones such as LinkedIn. So don't be afraid to put your opinion and what matters to you in the dialogue. It all matters.
Thank you.
I just would like
sorry.
to add to Katie that I think it is so critical that we share our opinion in a written form, not just verbal, because please note that anything on the web, anything publicly available is feeding these algorithms. So if you have a perspective, if you have a critical point of view, saying it just like sharing with some people that you know of may not be good enough. Like write a blog, share it as an article, write somewhere that is publicly available so that that text will also be used in the training of some other algorithms. And I think we should increase these efforts as all of us.
And I can add just one more thing really quick. For AI ethics, I think depending on what kind of ethics we're talking about. So for example, workplace discrimination. And I think there are some things that AI can do. For example, AI, you can build, or somebody can build an AI model to analyze these patterns. Like, is there a discrimination in hiring? Is there discrimination in biases, right? So that's one of the areas AI can help. Identifying the patterns, analyzing it, right? Again, AI should be on the back end. And second things, for example, you can prepare these cases, right? You can leverage AI. You can just talk through it like using voice mode. or write a document, prepare it for the next cases. That becomes the data, right? And the third thing is, like John said, you can actively advocate for AI ethics and audits. And for that, we need women's perspective. So you can voice your perspective and be an active part of the community. I think there are a lot of organizations, independent organizations, and international organizations that's really focused on AI biases, AI ethics. I think one I can think of on top of my head is, I think AI partnership, AI ethics initiative. I think there's one more from World Economic Forum too. So you can become part of this community. So that's what I want to say.
Yes, we are very much like short in time, but I would like to hear your opinion in terms of, because we see a lot of questions about it. How can we, it's at the same time scary, right? Because AI is very much like surrounding all of our everywhere. So how can we really get the best rather than harm through the AI? How can we really control AI rather than it controlling us?
Can I share my perspective? I think AI is just a technology. It's not some kind of superpower, or it doesn't have the God power. So I came from a Michigan auto industry. Like, it's just like a car. If you have to go from point A to point B, you drive car, right? And the car is not controlling me. You are the one who's driving. You are the one who's putting this address to the GPS. So if you are a safe and you're a responsible driver, it is not gonna take control over you. Like, if you're not responsible, right? If you are reckless, then you might get into an accident. Again, think like a tool and a car that is readily available for you to enhance your life from going to point A to point B. That's my opinion.
There, yeah.
And I certainly agree, and I think this is so critical, particularly in the education of our children. I think we should always keep our own filters, our own character, our own ideas, and use AI as an additional source of information. It is not like we accept whatever it imposes on us. We just use it for good, and if we have other beliefs, other ideas, then we should filter it based on our own values. And that is something that we need to be aware of, and also teach it to other kids and young generation.
So important. Let me just double click on it. The criticality of critical thinking has to be the hallmark of all education. Everyone on this call, any niece, nephew, child that you have, ensure they do not succumb to the laziness of AI coming at them. We must retain critical thinking, and that will not be easy in the AI era. Thank you. Julia, to wrap.
Thank you, Katie. And thank you so much for our amazing panelists and all of you in the audience for joining us today, and Pipisawa for their support. We truly appreciate your time and insights as we explore how AI can help to close the gender gap in technology. It's an inspiring conversation, and we're excited about the possibilities ahead. Thank you so much, and hopefully we can connect for the future.
May I just add one thing? I see that some of you have requested the presentations or our LinkedIn profiles. I actually put our LinkedIn profiles on the chat, and I will check with the presenters if they are okay to share their presentations. But if you would like to get some information in terms of the presentations or the documents, you can actually email me, and I put my email address on the chat as well, and then we can go from there.
And the recordings as well.
Yep, including the recording.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. Take care. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.